I'll tell you, personal story where I was concerned. Fortunately, discipline got the better of me. I went to get my certificate of discharge framed. I don't have medals and stuff hanging on the wall. I don't do that kind of stuff. But my certificate of discharge was really important to me. Growing up, my dad always had his on the wall. And I was like, one of these days I'm going to have mine on the wall. So I went to a craft store that shall remain nameless, if I can get through this without naming them. And I told the girl behind the counter, I said, listen, here's how it works. I said, I have my certificate of discharge. I said, underneath, I said, there's another piece of paper underneath. It's perforated, not so you can tear it off. It's perforated so you can fold it up behind it. It's got a letter from my commanding officer. This has to stay together. Don't tear it off. Just fold it up behind it. That's why it's perforated, so it folds. And when you frame it, please don't put tape all across the back of it. I said, I want to keep this as clean and as neat as possible. She said, not a problem. She was really nice. She said, not a problem. I got a call. I was told it was ready to go. I went and I picked it up. It was beautiful. They did a great job framing it. And then there was a different girl behind the counter. She handed me an envelope. And inside that envelope was the letter from my commanding officer. She ripped it right off. And boy, I just got so incredibly mad about that. And I was in office at the time. And the thought had crossed my mind. I should have one of our analysts format a bill for me called the such and such craft store Veterans Protection Act or something. And I should just file it. Not to get it through, but just to file it because, boy, that would make a lot of news. And the reason I was so mad is because I complained to the manager, and I'm not even kidding here. The manager offered me, he said the most he could do is give me 15% off my next purchase of arts and crafts. So I was really mad. But it crossed my mind, I'm in a position where if I introduced a bill like that, it would get some attention because it's just kind of off the wall, but it would be making a point. And people do that all the time. I never did. This was the closest I ever came. But people will do that for you, against your issue, if they get mad or they get angry. So as soon as you find out somebody's not with you on an issue, just let it go. Because you don't want somebody to ever feel like they need to work against you. Find out what you have in common. As soon as you realize you don't have anything in common, they're not with you on the issue, move on. Start keeping track of your numbers. You should start whipping and lobbying for your legislation. All right, that's what I've got to say. Does anybody have any question about any of that? Or maybe I need to clarify a personal story that maybe didn't, maybe you want to, maybe it put me in the wrong light. I don't know. Any question about anything? Yes, sir.
What it takes to be on that ballot so people can vote for you? Like, you have to go sign up and pay a little money or all that stuff?
Yeah, depending on, so his question was, what does it take to get on the ballot? You got to file, usually the year of the election, usually in March, if you want to be on the state rep or state senator. Filing time usually closes in March, usually opens in February, might close in early March. But depending on what party you're going to run as, that party will require you to pay a filing fee. And then you go to the Secretary of State's offices. As long as you're up on your taxes and as long as you're not a felon, then it's pretty easy to actually get on the ballot for your district. And if you want to run independently, it's pretty easy to get on the ballot and run independently. I know a guy that ran without ever even forming a committee to raise money. He spent $300. As long as you spend like less than $500, you don't need a treasurer, you don't need a campaign committee. Which brings me up to another point, and I didn't have this in my notes, but you reminded me of this, and I want to make sure this gets out there too. Earlier, I was talking about lobbyists and the resources that they have. I don't believe, and maybe somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty familiar with how different issue sets operate. But I want to encourage you on this issue specifically. I believe that the family unit is the most important unit in the world. It feeds, clothes, and educates more people than any government ever has. And on this issue, where the policy is at stake, every $1, $5, $10 that you can put towards this issue and this organization is worth it. There are some people that want to take their money in. I know that other issues are important to other people, but listen, if the family unit breaks down and goes by the wayside, if children don't have those relationships with their mother and their father, if current statutes are working against the ability for both parents to come together equally to find out how are we going to manage the situation that we find ourselves in, if the family is not protected against some of the legislation that's out there right now and some of the ideas that are out there to go on the books, then every other issue that we care about is going to be another 2 or 3 steps out of reach for us. And this is my opinion. And I think I might share this opinion with you all, and that's probably why you're here. This organization specifically, I can tell you, has made huge headroads in Jefferson City. When I was first elected and I swore in January 2011, I didn't know anything about this issue. And by the time I left office, we had multiple legislators filing bills on behalf of the work that you all do. But that will come to a grinding halt, and you would be surprised how quickly issues are forgotten about if there's not people that have the resources that they need to continue to make their case in front of legislators. Whether it's $5, $10, $50, or $5,000, you can do what I've done before. Just try to set up something little, anything that helps, and make it monthly, reoccurring, something. But this organization, for very few people would I come all the way down from Wisconsin at an invitation to talk specifically about helping an organization like this with policy. But that's all for naught if that organization does not have the resources that they need. So I'm begging and I'm pleading, share, post, be your own little fundraiser for this group and this organization, because that strengthens and empowers yourselves as you guys continue to do the work that you're doing. Very important. And if it doesn't happen, then this organization doesn't happen, the issues that you care about doesn't happen, because legislators are going to be in Jefferson City introducing bills to give us a new state butterfly rather than talking about this issue. Last story on that, we had 2 legislators, they both wanted to introduce legislation to give us an official state dog. State dog. We have a state lizard, we have a state fly, we have a state everything. Don't even get me started on all that, but I'll tell you what happened here. We had 2 legislators, both introduced a bill. One of them, it was Champ the Wonder Dog from some city out western Missouri. Then the other person had a different dog. We were on the House floor debating for 5 hours about the dogs until they finally decided. They came up with some Robert's Rules of Order. Hey, we found a way to do this. We're going to merge both bills. We're going to have the state wonder dog, and then we're going to have the official state dog. Spent 5 hours talking about it. I would have much rather been debating issues where this organization's concerned than that. But that's not going to happen if organizations like this don't have the funding and the resources that they need to compete against state wonder dog bills. It's got to happen. Be fundraisers for this organization, because you're fundraisers for yourselves and your own issues. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as far as spending money in Jefferson City, like if we had the funding, where would that money be most beneficial? Towards campaign contributions, or what I mean?
Yeah, a good relationship builder. Yep. So that's why you'll have organizations, companies, AT&T, Walmart, Microsoft, Google, there's an organization that cares about something, there's a business that cares about something, and of course they all can't be there all the time, so they'll hire somebody that can be there all the time. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but you were there you were there all the time. I felt like you were there all the time.
Between the 29 states I was working in.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in capitals.
And what you want is somebody like Mark. You want somebody who can go out there and be a good relationship builder and a good relationship manager. And as those relationships continue to grow, they can begin to plant those seeds. Hey, here's something that we're working on. We could really use your help. Hey, there's going to be an amendment on this bill in committee. We could really use your vote. That money needs to be spent to make sure that you can keep somebody in those Capitol buildings working on this issue. That's where it needs to go. At some point in time when this is not the strategy that everybody follows, but that is certainly the strategy that everybody follows. And then at a certain point, maybe you'll have other money where people can write campaign contributions or something like that. But the one primary objective behind raising money is to make sure that you can equip your organization with the financial resources to keep somebody talking to legislators and building that face-to-face personal relationship on your behalf. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, so you're saying essentially hire lobbyists to promote our bill.
A lobbyist or this organization specifically, whoever it is that represents this organization or has been representing it, whether it's Mark or whether it's been any number, I've probably come across maybe 5 or 6 different guys from this organization just in my time in office. So this organization just needs to have the financial resources to be represented in the Capitol buildings. Anybody else? All right, thank you all so much for your time, your attention. I'll be sticking around for a little while and be able to chat up with you a little bit more.